Welcome back to the channel, Over the Hills and Far Away. This one's just for me. Okay, Over the Hills and Far Away is an old British folk song associated with the military. It's got many different iterations. So there's the Queen Anne, then there's King George. So this is the version sung by John Tams on Sharp. John Tams is Rufferman Hagman. He's actually a very good folk singer. He does concerts, stuff like that still today. And so the guys at Forlorn Hope managed to get a deal with John Tams to do a sort of metal/rock cover of his version of Over the Hills and Far Away. I was 15, 16 when I first saw Sharp. So Over the Hills and Far Away was I loved it. It was very Napoleonic sounding to me. So to hear these guys getting the right to do Over the Hills and Far Away is awesome. So we'll take a look at some of the lyrics but yeah, otherwise it's just we'll take a look.
Here's 40 shillings on the drum to those who volunteer to come.
40 shillings on a drum would be, it wouldn't always have to be on a drum. Basically, it was a bounty. It's called a bounty. Recruiting sergeant would go around and lie and say how great the army was, and just lie and straight up, sometimes even just straight up kidnap people. And the bounty, it might not have been 40 shillings, but that's just a folk thing. It would change up and down. Different regiments would offer different bounties. A lot of people want to join the 95th. Not so many people want to join the 71st. So the 71st might offer a little bit more of a bounty. It's not ragging on the 71st, just pick the number. So the recruiting sergeant would come around and you would get paid this bounty, like 40 shillings. Oh my goodness, that's so great. That's 12, £3, £8, £3 each. I don't know. Weird, freaky numbers. It's a lot of money. Not quite a year's wages, but it's a couple of $1,000, $20,000. And then you would have to buy all your own equipment, and that bounty would just shook, and then the sergeant would just blatantly steal from you. So even more, you wouldn't normally end up in debt, but it could happen. The king's shilling was the thing you took to be in the army. You took the king's shilling. So you took something from the king, so you owed something back. It was the general vibe, but a lot of the times you would just get drunk, and the sergeant would put a shilling in your beer, and then you'd finish your beer, you'd be like, oh, what's this? Oh, congratulations, you've now signed up to the army. And that happened. Just kidnapping. They would take you in front of a magistrate, and then the magistrate would be like, oh, yes, you're fine. Sign him up to the regiment, off you go. And then a couple of fake people on there too, because the sergeant got a bounty as well. For every person the sergeant brought in, he got a bounty, and the officers would try and steal it from him. So all's fair in thieving from the regimental coffers. It wasn't such a big deal when the colonel was privately financing the regiments, but by the Napoleonic Wars, the colonel is no longer personally financing regiments. At least not to the extent they were previously. Before, they were just financing literally everything. Now they can buy personal things for the regiment, they can buy private stuff, but the vast majority of the equipment is government issued.
To list and fight the foe today.
No conscription in Britain, but military service was an alternative to prison. And much better, because of you don't want to see an 18th century prison.
King George commands and we obey.
King George II went completely insane. He went insane. He's your American War of Independence guy. American Revolution. That's the king they're fighting against there. He goes nuts. He's completely insane. He's just a bunch of inbred Germans. And then his son, the Prince Regent, King George III, he's dead in 29. He's dead after this. Anyway, Prince Regent goes nuts too. Anyway, King George is the one we're looking at now. It's always good to choose a nice English name like George, because St. George, St. Patron Saint of England. When you're a bunch of import Germans from Hanover, which is what happened in 45. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. It's way off topic. But yes, military service could be compelled on you by a judge. You didn't want to see an 18th century prison. You didn't want to see us. You didn't want to see that. That was bad. Prisons back then were not great. Executions were a form of public entertainment. You would all get together with the wife and kids to see people hung, or hanged. Sorry, see people hanged. It was an event. People would sell food and sell all sorts of cool stuff. The state would put up these big, giant seating areas like a sports game to watch this piece of trash be hung for whatever bread he stole or anything. You'd very rarely be killed for bread. Most hangings were rapes, murders, serious assaults. This whole deported for a sheep thing, yeah, it happened, but it was quite rare. Most serious crimes in this period were murder. Murder was very high, and it was lower in England than it was anywhere else, but it was damn high in England. So murder at this time was quite common. So yes, you could be sent to the army as a sort of in lieu of going to prison. I think you can still get that done legally. I'm not sure if it ever is done, but I know that legally I think it is still on the books in a lot of countries. I know it is in the US and Australia. I'm not sure about the UK.
Over the hills and far away, through smoke and fire and shot and shell, and to the very walls of hell, we shall stand and we shall stay, over the hills and far away.
So this is the John Thames version, which is it's a historical version, but it's different to some others. So the earliest versions I know of talk about there's an apprentice who doesn't want to. He's sick of being an apprentice. He's just sick of this servant life to this blacksmith or whatever. So screw him. I'm going to join the army and adventure over the hills and far away. Because remember, the British Army's not active in Britain. The British Army's not running around in Britain doing combat and stuff. They are in 1715 and 45 when the Jacobites up north in Scotland raised some stuff. But as a general rule, and 98 with the Irish. But as a general rule, the British Army is normally operating in India and these exotic places in India. If you're really unlucky, you go to the West Indies and die. If you go to the West Indies, you're getting sick. It's like walking into a normal shopping centre today with coronavirus. But the West Indies, or you went to North America up in Canada, fighting the savages in Canada, or if the even worse savages in the Continental Army and all that sort of stuff. Those awful Kentucky men with their rifles and all that sort of stuff. The British Army was a foreign service unit. It wasn't like the German army, which was sort of strict discipline with fighting. Every loss is threatening Berlin, especially Prussians, or the Austro-Hungarians, where you're fighting for this. Well, Austrians at this point, Austro-Hungarians later, where you're fighting for this kingdom, and you're fighting for Austria and the Holy Roman Empire at the same time, and you're fighting defensively. Most of the British stuff is overseas adventure. Many of the same sort of things that would be told to people enlisting in the Australian, New Zealand, England, or UK, American Army, this sort of go overseas and see the world type thing. And that's what it would be. It would be this sort of go over the seas and see the world, over the hills and far away, have this grand adventure. Charge through shot and shell with all your brothers, who are all going to live, by the way. All your comrades all live, and you all party, and you're so brave because you charge through like a soldier and you stick the Frenchman or whatever. I'm not sure which side we're on now, because it could be a Frenchman or it might be a filthy Russian or maybe a Turk, because we're not sure what period we're in. Well, allies and enemies with all of them. So you charge through and you kill that enemy, and all your friends are beside you, and it's a big party. That's this sort of old school stuff. And this would have just been sung by regiments marching. Flanders is the Flanders campaign with the Duke of York, which is where we get the song, The Grand Old Duke of York. He had 10,000 men, marched them up to the top of the hill and marched them down again. That's where that song comes from, by the way, because he just did it. And the French army did a campaign in Flanders in 04? Quite early on, 03 or 04. Oh, no, sorry, it was 1790 something. Yeah, they did a campaign in the mid-90s. The Duke of York was not given field command after that. So that Flanders part is the original start of the Napoleonic Wars, the British go into Flanders. Also, in the earlier versions of the song, Spanish held Flanders was War of the Spanish Succession, War of the Austrian Succession, 7 Years' War, which is sort of, that was combat in Flanders there. For the British. So yes, that Flanders area was sort of a a quite a recurring battleground for the British. Of course, World War One Flanders is super famous, probably most famous for World War One. So obviously this song predates that by a few centuries.
If I should fall to rise no more, as many comrades did before, then ask the fifes and drums to play over the hills and far away.
See, even your death is still like, even if I die, play this music and inspire everybody else. Like it's great music for the time. I can see why it became one of the most popular songs of the time for the military, anyway. And I love that John Thames managed to get this put in sharp.
With colors blazing like the sun, along the road to come what may.
Colors are the flags. Technically, it's one of the flags. The other ones, oh, they're both colors. Normally, colors is the regimental one. Technically, the Prime Minister commanded. King George was not quite so involved. Prime Minister was shot in the Napoleonic Wars. So the only British Prime Minister to be ever be assassinated was just shot in Parliament House. Just bang, someone killed him. It's like, what the fuck? I should do a video on that. Yeah, he was just blatantly shot coming out of the Parliament House. Whatever they call that today. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Forgot about that. So, yeah, look forward to that coming soon. British Prime Minister shot and killed. And then the Horse Guards, the Yeomanry of the Horse Guards go on a massacre afterwards and kill a bunch of people. But anyway, that's nothing to do with this. Yeah, so thanks for another idea for a video, MB. Cool. So that's Over the Hills and Far Away, specifically the John Thames version done by Forlorn Hope. These old folk songs, I can't say I'm a big fan to listening to them all day as much as some other music like Forlorn Hope, but these old folk songs are always good to dip into every now and then, to just to see what people would listen to at the time, what people would sing, what people would this would be being played while a recruiting band was going around. They would be playing this along with all these other types of songs. Your regiment had a famous song, Twa Cruitin' Sergeants. This is like an old Scottish like bagpipe thing of specifically for the 42nd. It's all these. There's a Scottish have a whole bunch for the 42nd of these sort of 42nd style songs. So yeah, a lot of guys would have enlisted and would have heard this before they'd even really signed their names up. So it's a very interesting. Oh, pardon me. It's a very interesting historical piece to take a look at, and I'm glad that it's been modernized for people now to enjoy it, and hopefully more people will get into the Napoleonic history, because it's very interesting. Thank you all very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.